Hello everyone and welcome to MagicGatheringStrat. We're going to do another top 10 list here on the color that just happens to be my favorite. I know a lot of people agrees with me, but wizards do not from time to time, and from time to time they print something ridiculous. But anyway, another top 10 list, same rules as with the white. If a card is really good, especially for the specific color it's in, it will get a high place. If it's a cyber card or not, doesn't really matter. So let's jump right into it, shall we, with number 10. Lord of Atlantis. Well, it only goes into one deck, but that deck is actually pretty good. And the card that is most feared in the entire deck is by far Lord of Atlantis. It's cheap, it powers your whole team, it comes in with Edavile, it's just really good. And yes, it only goes into one deck, and you could argue that Master of the Pearl Trident is better. I disagree, because if this gets mind control, it actually still applies the effect to your team, which Master of the Pearl Trident do not. So yeah. Anyway, it just powers the deck. Without Lord of Atlantis, I think the deck would be unplayable. It was pretty bad without the Master. Now with 8 Lords it's better, but it seems play from time to time. I would probably pair it with another color just to give it a bit more potency, but that's my opinion. Alright, on place number 9, Mana Leak. So I had a really hard time figuring out where to put the counter spells, because as all counter spells, they have a peak and then they drop off. Same with creatures, I guess. I mean, if it costs 1 mana, it's at its best on turn 1 and pretty bad on turn 10. Mana Leak would probably go higher, unless I counted in the fact that on like turn 10 it's pretty bad. And also counter spells as top decks is pretty loose, unless you're already winning, then they're fantastic. But the high variance of the cards make them lose some potential for me. So Mana Leak's only on place number 9. If it was straight up counter spell, it would be a lot higher, obviously. But it does it all for its 2 mana. It's only 1 blue, so it's easy to cast, and for the most part it's a hard counter spell. Very important in the control decks, and a pretty good card overall. Okay, on place number 8, Gifts Ungiven. I still think this is a bonkers card, and I'm still trying to figure out how to use the card to its full potential. I mean, the card just recently got unrestricted in Vintage. Yes, I know it could get better stuff in Vintage obviously than in Modern, but come on, there is so many things you can do. You can power up a Dredge deck, you could play the Umbrella Rights combo, you could just play it for value, always having like the removals or whatever you want for different win conditions. I'm really going to push myself to make this card as good as it can be, and I'm pretty sure where to go first and check it out. So I will put up that deck as soon as I built it and played it, but as long as Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise is still legal on Magic Online, that will not happen. But yeah, this card is a combo enabler, a value card, and it's like instant and cheap, and I just can't wrap my head around how good the card actually is. So yeah, that's why it's on the list, but it's also just, I just think it would be wrong to leave it out, even if it sees a pretty small amount of play. Okay, number 7, Gitaxian Probe. Could be on place number 1 because it's free and it replaces itself. But yeah, this card obviously goes into the Delver decks, and more specifically the Young Pyromancer decks. But there it does it all. It smoothens out your draw, it flips the Delver, it adds a token to the young pyromancer, and it gives you perfect information about what your opponent is doing. If it's a burn player, you should preserve your life total. If it's a combo player, you should keep the pace up and keep counters up. Just the information is so valuable, and the fact that it doesn't even cost you a card or any tempo whatsoever. It just, I think they could have easily banned Gitaxian Probe too because of what it does, but apparently not, and it will remain. I mean, it's not broken in the sense that it destroys the game or anything, but for the decks that plays it, it's one of the most valuable cards you can have in your opening hand. Okay, place number 6. Remand gets a higher position than Mana Leak because, well, it's good in the late game too, or better at least. And sometimes a Mana Leak won't do it, and Remand is just the thing you need. You just need one more turn, and then Remand is your boy. It's also, it's not that common, but I mean, sometimes they like Abrupt Decay your whatever, Oblivion Ring or something, and you can obviously not counter Abrupt Decay, but you could remand it anyway to try to find that Lightning Bolt or whatever to finish the game, something Mana Leak cannot do. So that's another aspect of the card. And of course the famous remanding your own spell in response to their counterspell thing. That's just so sweet when that happens. Like, you play an Electrolyze and they tap all their mana to play a Cryptic command, and you just say remand my Electrolyze. So you fizzle their Cryptic and you get to draw a new card and you get to keep your Electrolyze. And what did you give up? Well, tempo. But overall, remand is really good, and I like the spell a lot. Let's keep going to number 5. Threads of Disloyalty. Oh man, this card is so good. It's such a broken sideboard card that I don't really know how you could exclude it ever. The fact that it takes cards like Tarmogoyf is just so nice. And the times when you get to take like Wall of Omens with a Splinter Twin on, you're just in Magic Christmas land. Threads of Disloyalty. People have complained that the prices have gone up so much over such a short period of time, but that's just because people have been underestimating this card for so long. It's really that good, and it's also from a set that is not that popular. So Threads of Disloyalty should always be something you consider for your blue sideboards. Number 4, Delver of Secrets. Yeah, I know it has dropped off in value a bit since Treasure Cruise and Ether Time got banned, but it's still the most fearsome thing a blue deck can do on turn 1. And to be frank with you, it's probably one of the most fearsome thing you can do on turn 1 in total. The only thing that's worse is like Urza's Tower into map. That could be worse. But Delver of Secrets, the fastest clock for the cheapest price in a deck that contains a color that is pretty unfair, which is blue. And then you flip it on like a Remand or a Mana Leak, and it's just so good. So it's hard to argue with Delver. It does get pared down a few nodes here just because of the deck's popularity and so on. The 3 cards above it is also really strong, and I think less conditional and better suited for the metagame post bans here. So place number 3, Vendilion Click. One of the most expensive blue cards in the format, but it's also one of the very best. It's cheap, it has a lot of power, it flies, it has flash, and it's disruptive. Everything in one card. And you could also use it on yourself, like let's say you have a Supreme Verdict in hand and you're playing against let's say Storm. Well, then you could actually click yourself and draw another card. That could be better than clicking your opponent. It all depends. Maybe I've used Gitaxian Probe and know that you don't need to click them. But overall, this is a flexible, versatile card that comes down early and demands a response pretty quickly. Otherwise, it will actually win the game. And usually, when you're playing blue, you can back it up with a count spell or something, and then it could go all the way. So yeah, Vanilla Click is really good and well worth its money. So place number 2, Cryptic Command. The format defining card in the color, triple blue, very hard to cast, but oh man, I mean, it does it all. The most common choices is obviously counter target spell and draw a card, but I've used every single combination on this card multiple times. I mean, I've used bounce like their Celestial Colonnade and tap the rest of their team when they play like a land in the first main phase. That just buys you so much time. Counter draw, obviously very good. Counter bounce, pretty nice. Let's say you counter a cranial plating and bounce another cranial plating when you're facing Affinity, very strong play. This card is never dead. Compared to Mana Leak and Remand, this card could be used at any time. And yeah, I mean, if I'm playing blue, I'm probably playing heavy blue, and then I'm playing at least 3 cryptic commands. 4 is a bit much, but I'm rarely sad that I drew a cryptic command. Okay, so honorable mentions. Bribery. I've come to like Bribery so much since I played Cube a lot, but it's still very good in Modern 2, and it's very unexpected. It's a rare card to see. If you're playing Tron, you usually don't expect your blue opponent to just tap out and steal your Emrakul or whatever. And since it's post-board, you probably don't have that many cards to actually handle an Emrakul anymore. You could have Karn, but, well, yeah. But then your opponent can have a Pact of Negation, which is another honorable mention. The reason it's not on the list is that it's so conditional. I mean, you play it in combo decks when you're going off, basically, and that's almost the only time it sees play. I think you could play 1 or 2 in a dedicated control deck as well, but it's pretty dangerous. I mean, if they have a Tectonic Edge, you could be in trouble. So it keeps it down for me, but it's a card that should be mentioned. And also Spell Snare. I cut it in favor of Mana Leak. I think the card is very, very good at what it does. It's cheap and it counters a plethora of relevant cards: Tarmogoyf, Dark Confidant, Mana Leak, Remand, Snapcaster Mage, Lightning Helix, Cranial Plating, Arcbound Ravager, what have I missed? Voice of Resurgence. I mean, it just goes on. It's a really, really solid card. But sometimes it just whiffs completely against like Tron, or for that matter, Splinter Twin. There it just doesn't do enough, and that's why I kept it out of the list, just slightly. Alright, so the top card, number 1, probably, yeah, nowadays it's probably my favorite card. It's the good old Snapcaster Mage. It's hard to argue with this bad boy. It does it all. Ever since I first played it in Standard, when Innistrad was first released, I just love the card so much. It does everything you want it to do, because it can flashback whatever spell you have. And the good thing is that instead of going like 8 counter spells, 8 removal, you could now go 6 counter spells, 6 removal, and 4 Snapcasters, essentially highing the count from 8 to 10 with both the removals and the counter spells. But you have a better control of what card you actually have, and that is so important. Sometimes you're sitting with a removal spell and you need a counter and vice versa, but if you have a Snapcaster Mage, you probably have access to both. The only bad thing about Snapcaster is that sometimes it's just a 2-1 flash for 2. Not that that is really that bad, but it's not really what you want to be doing. And of course the ceiling of this card is basically limitless. I mean, you cast Sphinx's Revelation for 7, play out your hand, play Snapcaster Mage 2 turns later and play it for 7 again. It's just, yeah, it's really, really good. So, and I think now without the Delve card, Snapcaster could re-emerge as a fantastic card once again. I mean, it was decent with the Delve cards, but obviously they are competitors. Snapcaster wants food from the yard, and the Delve spells also wanted food from the yard. So, but yeah, I'm going to push Snapcaster Mage as well. I think the card is well worth its position as the number one blue card in the format. So thank you for watching. Please leave some comments. Do you agree? Do you disagree? What did I forget? Yeah, everything you can think of. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.